another had to be there sort of situation. I feel like I'm just going to drop a name that you can only drop. All I got to do is drop these two words. I mean, the first and last name, and everybody's going to get it. And if you are honestly not, I don't even know if 40 is enough. Like, you're going to maybe need to be a little bit older than 40 to really appreciate this. But what you know about that boy, Randolph Childress?
Oh, man. Of course. I mean, that was wild, right? I mean, I was not an ACC guy because that was Big East, ACC. They were opposites back then. There, Syracuse and Boston College hadn't quite crashed the party yet. That tournament, it was like, who's that?
The ACC
there was
tournament
another
in
dude
1995.
like that who just went off. And the thing about it is, going off in college was going off.
Yes.
Because going off in college meant, one, it's a coach-driven game. Two, a lot of times there was no shot clock back in the day. So their team's just holding the ball. To score 30 points in a college game, 30 points in 40 minutes is a lot anyway.
And by the way, after they had put in the shot clock, it was a 45-second shot clock.
Was that the 19-9 3-point area yet? Or was
yes.
It? Okay, so he had some opportunities. 19-9 3-point is like a layup, right? And so he went wild, and it was sort of like, and it was like, and that's what that's what the tournament is for, right? I mean, the tournament is for those moments where you're starting looking at guys that you hadn't seen. I mean, it's like a Steph Curry thing where it's like, who's that? And immediately I'm thinking, oh, I can't wait to see him in the NBA.
Right. And so, like, with Randolph, it was interesting because it was the conference tournament where he scored like 30, 40 a night, like every night in the ACC tournament. And the conference tournament landed different back then because the conferences were smaller. Like, conference tournament weekend was as good as the first weekend of the NCAA tournament in a lot of ways. And so Randolph Childress went to Wake Forest. And so this is the thing about Wake Forest that I didn't fully get until I lived in North Carolina for 10 years. Rodney Rogers, for example, is a beloved figure across the ACC. And that is what I understood, kind of the unique place that Wake Forest plays in that, which is people did not think that Rodney was, and by the way, when you talk about a great college player, Rodney Rogers is 100% on that list. Teams did not think that he was going to qualify academically, so they did not recruit him that tough. Wake Forest figured it out, and then they got him in. But what that meant was no school got turned down by Rodney Rogers. Therefore, it wasn't like Carolina fans hated him because he didn't go there. Like, he became a player that everybody could get behind because nobody hates Wake Forest. It's just not how it works. Why what do you have in your heart? Yeah. Like, what do you have in your heart to be out here hating Wake Forest? And so Randolph Childress is out there. And this is a team, by the way, that had a sophomore Tim Duncan. And Randolph Childress carried his big ass and everybody else. And me and my brother remember this. I can't find the clip of it, but we remember hearing him tell them in the huddle, man, just give me the ball. If we lose, it's my fault. If we win, y'all can have it. Let's go. And then he did the move that none of us will ever forget. He hit Jeff McInnis, who played in the NBA for a very long time. That Carolina team they were playing against went to the Final Four, had Jerry Stackhouse, had Rasheed Wallace. He crossed Jeff McInnis over. Jeff McInnis fell down. He looked at Jeff McInnis with his hand, told him to get up, and then hit the three.
Gave him a little Matrix, a little Morpheus. Come here.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go. And then hit the three. I said, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? I don't know if it's possible for the tournament to have that kind of electricity. Of course, by the time this airs, it may have been like the greatest first weekend ever, right? But there was something to be said about the idea, and I think you were right on one hand. I can't wait to see this guy in the NBA. But on the other hand, what makes Steph Curry's tournament run interesting is he's the rare guy who had that tournament run, and that wasn't the greatest athletic moment of his career.
There was another dude, like, it's actually real interesting. And I haven't decided yet if whose fault it is, because, we got to assess blame on everything.
Yes.
So I can't decide if it's my fault for just getting older and having other things that I care about, or if it's the NCAA's fault for just messing up the whole damn thing. And for, USC and UCLA being in the Big Ten. I don't know what the reason is. And for the nondescript nature of the NCAA tournament, now the March Madness is essentially all sensation and no players. Like, last year was the first year I was like, I can't name a player in this tournament. Like, who's the player in this tournament? But the one thing that the tournament, and the conference tournaments too, that were really, really good for was the dude who went off. There was a guy who played for Dayton, Roosevelt Chapman, never to be seen again. Went off in the tournament one year. And he was a scorer and everything, but he was one, like, you would look at some of these guys, because you'd be seeing them for the first time. And it was just kind of fun to see these guys, because, the conferences were so disparate back then. And, and when I was growing up there, God, I feel so damn old, right? Because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so we didn't have cable. So everything was CBS, right? You weren't getting 25 games a week. And in the tournament, you would start to see these dudes you hadn't seen before. And it is interesting. It's so funny you think about it, because Steph Curry was a good college player. But Steph Curry wasn't the guy you looked at and said, oh, he's going to become one of the top 10 players of all time. It wasn't like, we just can't wait to get him to the NBA. So he's actually the anomalous one who gets off in the tournament, has the whole world looking, and then has a second act that dwarfs the first.
Yeah. The tournament was good where all you really had to have was a game. Mm-hmm. That boy Toby Bailey in 95 went off UCLA. In that final game for UCLA. It wasn't never quite like that. Yep. Again, you got to do it like Mike Bibby, or like Miles Simon is the one who didn't turn it into something else. But Mike Bibby, we learned who Mike Bibby was, and then Mike Bibby, wound up, having the career. But no, you're right. It would be those guys, like, not just a shot, right? Not just like Keith Smart, Chris Jenkins, right? Like not just that, but like they have gone off. Or there's cases like Danny Manning, who we thought he would be the NBA player, but injuries primarily.
Purvis Ellison against Duke.
Yeah. But Purvis Ellison was a guy on a good team, right? Yeah. A freshman, never nervous Purvis, all that stuff. Danny Manning, nobody has taken more bums on his back to a national championship than Danny
carried
Manning.
That team. Oh, maybe Bird. Oh, not a championship.
Yeah. Bird was close. You are correct. Bird, I don't who are those guys?
He had one teammate who made the NBA. Carl Nicks played for the Utah Jazz.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay, well, yes. There we go. They were like, we can't get Bird, huh? Okay, what's the next? Who the other one they got?
We got Carl Nicks. Right? Yeah. And I was not a Danny Manning fan, but it was like, okay, you can't beat this guy. I mean, it was kind of crazy.
No, look, it was a combination of two things. It was the greatness of Danny Manning, and if there's anyone who would relish the chance to, how do I cook something up with just one guy and the rest of these dudes, it is Larry Brown.
Larry Brown. Mm-hmm.
As we would see later. For us. Yeah, but I say exactly, right? Like Larry Brown is like, oh, this is a mess. I bet Larry Brown was impossible to be around until they won those 6 games in that tournament. I think I talk about with the tournament that is different now is, and this isn't like a get off my lawn thing as much as it seemed like a good idea, but maybe it wasn't. The tournament was better when you couldn't see all the games. Like the original Red Zone channel is NCAA tournament coverage. And they would just pipe in on CBS. Like if you had a local game, they would give that to you. But otherwise, they just give you the best. You don't want to watch all of these games, man. Like you don't really want to watch all the 6s and all the 11s. You don't want to watch that whole game. You just want them to let you know to watch it if it is something worth watching. And so now all these games are on all the channels, and exposure gets you exposed. You did? Yeah. Like that's not what we need.
Unless you're just a straight up addict. Like I remember one time it was like, I'm like, oh shit, it's midnight. But on True TV, you can watch the West Regional. I'm like, no, I'm going to bed. But no, it's true. The number of games, the volume of it, and that, that's just kind of where we are, right? I mean, the beauty of the games, the scarcity was exactly the thing that made you want more. And then when you got more, ESPN and the rest of the 24/7, it was sort of like, okay, can we have less?
Right.
But you can't go back.
Right. So the thing to me is the first weekend of the tournament is about anomalies, right? Like generally speaking, if there's a good game in the first weekend of the tournament, it has to be an upset because the nature of the seeding process is supposed to like create those gaps. It's that second weekend where it's like, we're playing basketball and the Elite 8 matchups. You don't really get too many blowouts there. And even if you do get a blowout, everybody's coming in there with a spectacular level of enthusiasm, right? Everybody, like, was it St. Peter's in Jersey City a couple years ago? Mm-hmm. They was super gassed before they went in there and got their ass kicked by North Carolina. But why wouldn't they be?
Why wouldn't they be? I remember, once again, Georgetown when Princeton,
Yep.
50-49.
Yep.
I was like, we're going to lose. We're going to lose to,
Hey, let me tell you, let's have some real talk about this. I think that was in 1988 or 9. I don't think Morning was on that team. I think it was 1988. Brother, if they had lost that game, if those particular Afro-Americans had lost that game to Princeton.
What was Princeton? The northernmost outpost of the Confederacy?
That I did not realize until very, very recently the idea that Princeton was the Southern Ivy League school.
Yes.
I had no idea that was a thing.
And to lose to them dudes.